I was pregnant and I couldn't stop.
Getting sidelined by an injury was bad, but the cravings were way worse.
Then I heard about 844-REACH-NJ.
They connected me to treatment and I had a healthy baby.
844-REACH-NJ was the call that made the difference.
Thank goodness I made the call.
So glad I made the call for both of us.
REACH-NJ. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, call 844-REACH-NJ from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
touchdown!
Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Game 3 tonight on 97.3 ESPN is more than just the third game of the World Series. Tonight might be the most important game of the series. We'll get into that here. Josh Hennig hanging out with you, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Yes, on the app and on your radio, you can hear Phillies Astros Game 3 tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. First pitch, 8:03. Hear it all right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. So we're going to preview Game 3 tonight. We'll also give you a little bit of a little update in the aftermath of the NFL trade deadline. And joining us in less than 20 minutes from now, New York Times best-selling author Jeff Pearlman. We've had him on the show in the past, talk about books like The Three-Ring Circus, but the Lakers three-peat. You've heard him on 97.3 ES talk about his book, Football for a Buck, about the USFL, Rise and Fall. Author so many great books. In his latest book, I got to tell you, I'm in. I'm totally in on this book. I'm about 3-4 chapters in, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I mean, I would probably be further along in the book if the Phillies were not in the NLCS in the World Series, because that's where my attention is on non-football days. But the name of the book is The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson by Jeff Pearlman. So it's a fascinating book for those who remember how much larger than life Bo Jackson was. Or maybe you're somebody who heard of Bo Jackson, maybe saw the Bo Knows commercial, doesn't really know a lot. This book there's a lot. There's a lot there. We'll get into it with Jeff Pearlman in about 16 minutes from now. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You can also DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll get to the Phillies, then we'll get to the NFL trade deadline, because there were a ton of moves that happened deadline, not involving the Eagles, but definitely involving some teams you want to keep an eye on. But I mentioned at the top of the show, tonight might be the most important game of this series. And it's not because statistically the team that wins the third game of a series wins 2/3 of the World Series over the past, 50 years. It's not that. The bigger issue tonight is the Phillies trying to capitalize on something. When you are playing sports, when you are competing at the highest level, like these people are, you are in a situation where you got to make a decision of how important it is for you to win. Are you going to do whatever it takes? Or are you going to do about, just enough to get by? And for teams to be who are successful, they have to take every advantage they get. And they have to be all in to win at any cost, any purpose, any scenario. And this is being considered by a lot of people, national and local baseball people, they all believe that this rain delay, postponement, is advantage Phillies. They believe that this is in the Phillies' favor, that this game, this situation is playing out the way it is. Now, I don't know for sure if that's true or not. I can't confirm or deny that that's the truth. What I can confirm is that the Phillies are making a very strategic play by starting Ranger Suarez tonight. What they're doing is, with their projected starting rotation, they're saying that we trust Ranger Suarez get us this pivotal game 3. We're trusting Ranger to be part of the buffer to push Zach Wheeler back an extra day, to give him an extra day of rest. Because for whatever reason, Wheeler is overtaxed, overworked at this point. And I don't know the specific reason why that is. I don't know if it's just fatigue. I don't know if what they called a forearm strain a couple months ago, was that due to overexertion? Like, what exactly is going on with him? The Phillies keep saying it's not an actual, traditional injury. But the Phillies are trying to take advantage of a situation, pushing Wheeler all the way back to a game 6 if necessary. And the idea is that they're betting on that Ranger Suarez tonight and Aaron Nola tomorrow are going to be able to get you the 2 wins necessary to get you to a game 5 win and stay home on Thursday night. And they got Syndergaard, who is the expected starter as of right now. Now, of course, Rob Thompson explained that if Syndergaard has to come in, today's game for Ranger for whatever reason, or Nola tomorrow, they would go with Kyle Gibson on Thursday. But the wager the Phillies are making, and we're going to find out if it pays off, is that Ranger Suarez is good enough to get you a quality chunk of innings tonight and get it to the bullpen, and the bullpen can carry you home. And that the Philly crowd is going to carry these guys. I don't know if Ranger Suarez will or will not pitch well tonight, but what I do know is the Phillies are showing a lot of faith in him throughout this season, not just in the postseason with the times they've brought him in the games and the games they started. I think the Phillies have shown a lot of faith and belief in what Ranger Suarez brings to the table. And I think it's a fascinating gamble by them. Because what they're basically saying is Ranger is one of our 3 best pitchers. If Nola and Wheeler are 1, 2, then Ranger is our 3. And there's no debate about it. And what they're planning on is they're trying to win Tuesday, Wednesday, and so they can maybe finish this out Thursday. And if they don't finish it out Thursday, they hit the plane Friday. Wheeler has that extra rest on Saturday, and you're hoping to get the best version of him with some extra rest. So this is a fascinating calculation and gamble for the Phillies tonight. And on the other side, you got Lance McCullers, a guy who's not started a World Series game in a few years, but has been a part of multiple Astros runs to the World Series. And I think the big thing for the Phillies hitters tonight is this is a guy who you've not seen much of. How do the Phillies pick up this guy's skill set? Because one of those things McCullers is good at is mixing up his pitches and locations. Are they able to pick up what he is doing in his game plan off the first at bat, off the first inning, or is it going to take an inning or 2? How many times through the lineup is it going to take for you to pick up what he's doing? Because if it takes you too long and it's a 0-0 game in the 4th or 5th inning, there's a lot of questions. Or if you're losing 1-0, 2-0, do you stick with Ranger Suarez? Do you let it play out? There's so many questions that go into the strategies. Tonight is going to be a game of matchups, a game of strategy. Can Harper and Schwarber get hold of one of McCullers' pitches and drive it? Are the Phillies righties going to be able to handle the funky movement that McCullers brings to the table? I am fascinated by this matchup. And I think the Phillies Of course, you can hear it today on 97.3 ESPN FM. Game night on 97.3 ESPN being brought to you by my friends at Jenkins & Sons. When we needed to make the 97.3 ESPN studio more comfortable, that's who we called, and you should too. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Jenkins technicians are trained to do it all. For new heating and air installation service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing and drain cleaning services, call 609-641-6262 and online at jenkinsandsons.com. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973, Texter says, this also means a Ranger would be the Game 7 starter if necessary, which I'm not opposed to because he's cool as a cucumber and pitches better on the road. I mean, pitching better on the road is subjective because I think that one of the problems when we talk about people's road records in baseball, this is not like football where, you know, the stadiums outside of a handful of them are pretty antiseptic, right? Baseball stadiums, there's so many variables. You know, how deep is the outfield fences? You know, the environment. Is it a closed roof? Is it open roof? You know, which direction is the wind coming into the back of the stadium? If it's an open building concept, you know, there's a lot of variables going to a baseball stadium. So I'm not going to say universally the Ranger is a good road pitcher. I'm not going to make that step because I think that if you nitpick a guy's road record versus home record, you'll find little idiosyncrasies in there. But what I do think is important about Ranger is what you said before, which is he's cool as a cucumber. And it's the fact that the Phillies trust in him and believe in him. That's the crazy thing to me, that we are in the World Series and we are saying that the Phillies are all in on investing in this guy and saying, you're the guy to get us to the next guy. The word relying on you so we could push back Nola and push back Wheeler and give each of them an extra day and not try to bring them back too soon. That is a massive part of the conversation. Really quick before we get out of here, a flurry of trades happened in the NFL before the deadline, because we'll get to this a little bit later in the show as well. Of course, you could DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, and you can text in at 609-403-0973. Flurry of trades at the deadline. TJ Hawkinson goes to the Vikings. Chase Claypool goes to the Bears. Yesterday, Roquan Smith goes to the Ravens. Dolphins make not one but two trades, bringing in Jeff Wilson from the 49ers and what's his name? Bradley Chubb, the pass rusher from Denver. And to me, this is a very interesting situation because in the past, you have not seen a lot of trades. I think Miami just made some massive upgrades, and the Buffalo Bills made a very sneaky move in getting Naheem Hines. This playoff picture, I think, is going to start shaping itself out. And I think you saw at the deadline that some of these teams, they made it very clear that they are going for it. The Vikings, the Dolphins, the Bills, they want to leave without a shadow of a doubt how serious they are about making the postseason, which makes you wonder when you look at teams like Dallas and Green Bay, could they maybe have done more at the deadline? Something to think about. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Bo Jackson, the man, the myth, the legend, and the author of the new book, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. Jeff Pearlman joins me next here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles continue the 2022 season Thursday night in Houston against the Texans.
He is hit, but he keeps his footing. Now he fumbles the football. Eagles have it. They pick it up. There's the turnover.
Pre-game coverage starts at 7 p.m. with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 8:15. This is where the Philadelphia Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's official Eagle station.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's Incredible Crab Specials Wednesdays this fall. 2 pounds of snow crab legs for $49.99 or 2 pounds of snow crab legs and 4 hard shells for $79.99. Thursdays is Chicky and Pete's Go Birds Wing Special. Whatever the Eagles score on Sunday, get that percentage off your wings on Thursday. Higher score, bigger discount. Plus, our fall specialty menu with the mouth-watering garlic truffle burger and B-Dog Impact Nachos. Enjoy a pumpkin chanty or a smoked apple cider margarita. Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. And we know Saturdays in the fall are special. Why? College football. And we have you covered with food and drink specials and the best in-game experience to watch your team or the college football game of the week. Come watch Penn State, Temple, Villanova, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan, Georgia, and more. College football Saturdays are special at Chickies and Pete's.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but what about the nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons. Sinusitis, colds, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Over 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying best product I've ever used and amazing. I love my Navage. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Navage is good personal hygiene and can help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
At the United States Postal Service, we're here to deliver fast and reliable service to help you get holiday ready. We offer free package pickup and deliver free shipping supplies to your address. So whether you're in Garland, Texas, Rudolph, Wisconsin, or anywhere in between, we're making it easier for you to spread festive cheer this holiday season. USPS, delivering for America. For all your holiday needs, including info about free shipping supplies, free package pickup availability, and restrictions, go to USPS.com/holidays.
O'Reilly. Count on the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your vehicle and budget. Get maximum cooling system performance for 10 years or 300,000 miles with peak long life universal pre-mixed antifreeze and coolant. Now just $3.99 after mail-in rebate. Limits apply. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Yeah, we're replacing the carpets too, so don't worry about that.
No fresh powder yet, but Dan's Ski Lodge has an avalanche of projects.
Those 4 rooms are getting hot tubs.
He needs a staff engineer to navigate a flurry of new requests.
And all of those will be fully ADA accessible.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Finding the right Medicare plan? Oof, no easy feat. Kind of like those dances my granddaughter loves making me do. But then I found Walgreens Find Rx coverage. Lets you compare plans online, over the phone, or in person. Made Medicare shopping so easy. Plus, I found plans with low-cost copays. I can get down with that. When you need to talk Medicare, Walgreens is here. Start shopping today at walgreens.com/Medicare.
It's spooky. It's scary. It's keeping you up at night. It's your car in your garage. Get to Matt Blatt Kia. They'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe more than your trade is worth. Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released. Plus, if you have a job clearing $350 weekly, we finance your future, not your past. At Matt Blatt Kia, you're virtually approved. Don't see your new Kia on the lot? Doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. Hundreds of new and certified Kias in stock are on the way, with 0 down and 0 payments for 90 days, with peace of mind. Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
On approved credit plus applicable taxes and fees. See dealer for details. Not all will qualify. Deferred payment through TFCU. Interest accrues from date of sale. Offers don't combine. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Tom's River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get back to you guys' thoughts and comments on Phillies World Series Game 3 tonight, which you can hear on 97.3 ESPN FM and streaming on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app tonight, thanks to First Bank of Seattle. But right now, I've been looking forward to this book coming out. I'm so glad he was able to join us back on the show. We've had him on before, author of Three Ring Circus, author of Football for a Buck. The Walter Payton biography is one of the most incredible things I've ever read. And Jeff Pearlman joins us for his latest, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm good. Did you say the CIO Bank, as in CIO, New Jersey?
Yes.
Man, I used to spend my summers at CIO. I love CIO.
I used to live on 42nd Street for years.
Oh, man. CIO is just one of the gems of Jersey. Freaking love it. That's awesome. You made my day.
Well, at least I can make your day somehow. Jeff, I'm 4 chapters into this book, and I got to tell you, it's amazing that where Bo came from to the mythological figure that he became, it's like almost like reading the story of like a metamorphosis of like a caterpillar to a butterfly almost.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, you have to, as you read, dirt poor, one of 11 kids. Dad had no interest in him, lived across town with his own family, wore his sister's hand-me-down shoes to elementary school, and if there were no hand-me-down shoes, showed up in socks, literally showed up in socks. Had a severe stutter, was held back a grade, was a bully, was bullied, and somehow or another, he rose from the ashes of dirt poor Bessemer, Alabama, to become the greatest athlete who's ever lived.
When you talk about the greatest athlete has ever lived, because there's people who are listening right now, Jeff, who don't understand that Bo Jackson was more than just a guy who played baseball and football. This is a guy who literally everything he did, he was just incredible at. And he did it at a time that was before social media, before YouTube and TikTok. It wasn't like people could just jump on their phone and check it out.
No. He ran in high school. He set 5 individual state track and field records in Alabama, won back-to-back state decathlon championships, the second time wearing sweatpants the whole time. The day after his senior year when he won the decathlon on a sprained ankle, he pitched his only game a year of high school baseball, struck out 13 for the win, stole 90 of 91 baseballs and 90 of 91 bases in his high school career, set a national single-season home run record with 20, was recruited by everyone, was drafted in the second round by the New York Yankees, and just to throw it in, won the Heisman Trophy. And he ran a 4.13 40, which is, it's just all ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. There's never, I don't care what anyone says, there's never been a better athlete than Bo Jackson.
And the crazy part is, for those who don't know, he still played baseball after the hip injury, and he was still Bo Jackson, this mythical creature. I mean, Jeff, it's amazing to think what Bo Jackson could have been if he never injured that hip.
I'll tell you what he would have been. He would have been Jim Brown mixed with Mike Trout. Like, that was the level of athleticism. That was the level of skill. He was a little raw in baseball. He needed to sort of perfect his craft. I mean, if you think about it, he would jump from the baseball season, take 2 weeks off, no training camp, show up in the NFL, and run over, around, and through defenders, and was the best running back in football during his time when he was on the field. I mean, it's just, you can't just leave baseball and decide I'm going to play the NFL as a hobby and just do it. It doesn't make any sense, but he did it.
Jeff Pearlman is the author of the book, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. Jeff, I know I've asked you about some of your other books, but what was it about the Bo Jackson story? What was it about this myth, this legend, this bit larger than life guy that, what was the first hook that hooked you in and got you deep into this?
It was me being 13 years old and having a Bo Jackson poster on my wall as a kid. And always looking at that poster. It was a poster of him with the baseball bat and the shoulder pads. It was called The Ball Player. It was put out by Nike. It's one of the most iconic posters of all time for sports. And thinking, what the heck, man? How does someone do this? Watching him with the Royals and thinking, how do you do this? Watching him with the Raiders, how do you do this? And then becoming an adult and having the, honor of writing biographies for a living and just thinking, like, no one's ever really taken this one on. No one's ever really figured out who this guy actually was, how much of it is myth, how much of it is reality. And I love nostalgia. So I just jumped into it.
You conducted over 700 interviews. What was the person or the interview that was most eye-opening for you?
Well, when he was at Auburn, one of his closest friends and roommates was another running back named Lionel James. And Lionel James played in the NFL for several years. Lionel Little Train James. And he actually has died since I spoke to him, which is really sad. And he told me he broke down the racial dynamics of Auburn really, really well. And actually told me during Bo's sophomore year, Auburn's football players, because of renovations to the athletic dorm, had to live in trailers around town. And he told me Pat Dye, the head coach at Auburn, told him and Bo he was going to put them in a trailer sort of away from campus because of the number of white women they were dating, and it made people uncomfortable. And he really broke down sort of what it was like to be a black kid on Auburn, which is about 97% white back in the 80s. He said there was a point where he broke all of his fingers in a game against Florida. And afterwards, he just finds himself wondering, like, do these fans who cheer me every day, do they even care? Do they care that I broke my hand? Would they let me date their daughter? Could I even come over to their house for, lunch? Or am I just a product to them? I just found it really riveting, sort of all that these athletes went through and what the mental gymnastics they had to do to convince themselves that they were loved when maybe they were just products.
It reminds me a little bit. It's not the same vein, but before I read your book, I read the Ricky Henderson book by Howard Bryant. And,
great book.
It's one of those things where, like, you listen to how these phenomenal athletes, these special individuals, how they were treated like objects, and they had to decipher how to get through a world of who's looking at me as, for lack of a better term, a piece of meat, and who's looking at me as a human being.
Oh, 100%. When I wrote a biography of Walter Payton,
yes,
who grew up in Mississippi about an Arab, generation before Bo. And they used to use they had a phrase, it's really ugly, that they'd use in the South. If you had someone who was white, who was uncomfortable with the idea of having African-American football players on the team, someone would say, just give the ball to Leroy, meaning we don't care about this guy. Don't worry about it. Just give him the football. Just give him the football, and that's what he's there for. And I do think for a lot of these guys, Bo Jackson included, like, you were dirt poor. Nobody cared about you. Literally in Bestway, your family could not join the white church in town. Your mom could not go to a better school. All these things, being black in the South back then. But you're a football player, so we love you, and we're going to feed you steak and lobster and cheer your name and wear your jerseys. It's a really weird dynamic.
And it's also an interesting dynamic, the fact that how you write about in the book that, and this is one of my favorite parts of it so far, Bo could have never been Bo. He might have just been Vincent Jackson, the guy who got in trouble and went to prison, and that literally sports didn't just put him in a position to be successful. It literally saved his life.
Yeah, he was always afraid. His one fear was going to reform school. He had a brother who went to reform school, and he would come home and tell Bo about, I got raped in reform school, and I got assaulted in reform school. And Bo's one terror was reform school. But he was a really bad kid. He was a bully. He beat people up. He stole people's money. He would steal their bikes, burn off the paint, paint it again, ride past their house on purpose. His nickname, Bo, his real name is Vincent Edward Jackson, named after the actor Vincent Edwards. But Bo is short for Boarhog, and his nickname for Boarhog is when he was about 12, him and a bunch of friends went to a neighboring farm with sticks, and for 3 straight days beat the living crap out of the biggest boarhog, trying to kill it. And that's why he's called Bo. He was a mean kid who easily could have, pulled guns on people, tried all sorts of things you can't do, easily could have gone the wrong path, but sports really, really saved him.
The other part that's interesting to me is, if I can draw a couple parallels here, talking about Bo Jackson here, but I mentioned Ricky Henderson. You wrote the 3-ring circus about the three-peat with the Lakers, Shaquille O'Neal, all three of those guys. And there's more than that. There's so many of these athletes. They didn't grow up in the traditional family home with a father figure, and they went on to become these phenomenal individuals. And I just have to wonder, Jeff, for you as someone who does all this research, does all these interviews, what is your perspective on these athletes like Bo Jackson or Shaq, these guys that grew up without the traditional father?
Well, number one, the role of the mother is just incredibly important. And they always say, hell hath no fury like the Southern African-American mother from that era. And Bo's mom was tough as nails, and raised her kids with discipline. And the other thing that's interesting, I wrote Walter Payton, I wrote Bo Jackson, I wrote Brett Favre, all Southern raised, superstar athletes, all raised by parents, either one parent or two parents, who wouldn't spare the rod. And literally, if their kids would get in trouble, it'd be like, go to the back and get a switch, which is a stick from a tree, and make it thick. And I'm going to beat the crap out of you with this. And I'm not saying that's a way to raise your kids. I certainly have never hit my kids and would not. But it did have an impact on them in a way of keeping them out of trouble. I don't even know what the message there is, but there is that commonality of being raised with the switch and not sparing the rod. And I think for Bo, having his dad across town, having no interest in him, his mom really did have to be a mother and a father, and that caused her to be a very strict, very disciplined parent.
Well, maybe part of the message is, if I can just extrapolate for a moment with you, Jeff, and that is sports is about discipline. You have to have discipline to be successful, especially at the professional level. And you have to wonder, did the discipline that someone like Bo Jackson or some of these other guys went through in their younger life, did that more adequately prepare them to become these great college and professional athletes?
I mean, it's certainly a factor, but I do think an equally big factor is you're hungry. Your mom is hungry. Your siblings are hungry. And you see this thing that can take you out of hunger and take you out of poverty. Like if you're Bo Jackson growing up in Bessemer in the 1970s and 80s, you're not seeing a ton of doctors. You're not seeing a ton of lawyers. No one's saying you should go to law school. No one's saying you should go to medical school. You're basically going to work in the mines. That's your future. That was a mining community. You're going to work in the mines. But for him, when he really became good at sports and saw a future in sports, I mean, it was a way to give his family food and money, and that's invaluable. So I'm not saying the discipline isn't a factor. It certainly is. I think the number one factor for those guys is an empty stomach.
On the flip side, the other side of Bo's journey and his story is the fact that he was the precursor to what we see with a lot of modern athletes. The Bo Knows campaign, the fact that this guy was one of the first faces of a shoe apparel company. And you could argue that if it wasn't for Bo, a lot of athletes like LeBron James would not have what they have today.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan came first, Bo came second. But the thing that Bo had uniquely early, before Jordan, was an ad campaign catered hyper specifically around him. And he didn't have a ton of personality. Like, it's very interesting. His most famous ad is Bo Knows, where you have Kirk Gibson and John McEnroe and Michael Jordan, all these guys, Wayne Gretzky. And it's the Bo Knows ad. Everyone knows the Bo Knows ad. He doesn't say one word in that ad. There's another famous ad when he was coming back with Dennis Leary, the comedian. And it's Bo in the gym, running, lifting weights. Bo doesn't say a word in those ads. I think it really was the first advertising campaign based around an athlete, where the athlete's lack of charisma was dealt with by piping in some really cool music, having a lot of cameos, and just hyping sort of this idea of athletic greatness via a shoe. And I think that's something. LeBron happens to have a lot of charisma, but a lot of athletes haven't, and they're able to make it work the same way Bo did.
Jeff Pearlman is the author of the book, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. It is out now. I am loving this book. It is absolutely amazing just to get the depth and information. Over 700 interviews he made. And Jeff Pearlman has been my guest here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff, I appreciate the time. And the next time you make it out to Seattle, let me know.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Josh Hennig here. I get out with you on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's off the boardwalk in Atlantic City. With 10 big betting kiosks, 5 betting windows, 13 big screen TVs, and plenty of comfortable seating, you can bet, watch, and win all World Series, Eagles season, college football season, NBA season, NHL, whatever sport fancies you. Maybe you're a soccer fan. You like to get involved in the PFL or the MLS or one of those. The World Cup is coming up in a few weeks. Just head over to FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's off the boardwalk in Atlantic City to get in on all the action this season. FanDuel wants every bettor's experience to be enjoyable and fun. Visit FanDuel.com/playwell. Learn more. Must be 21 or to play in present in New Jersey. The Bet Online gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, back to you guys on the other side. Your thoughts on Phillies Game 3 tonight. Ranger Suarez takes the mound tonight. Aaron Nola tomorrow. Also, NFL trade deadline. A lot of moves, a lot of teams trying to keep up with the Joneses, as the old saying goes. We'll get to all of that coming up. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, where you can listen to the Phillies World Series games right there on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app and streaming live on our website, 97.3 ESPN.com, as well as 97.3 ESPN FM.
Red October continues on 97.3 ESPN. Listen to the Phillies and Houston Astros in the World Series on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Alvarez will play it back into the infield, but 2 runs are going to score. Real Muto drives in a pair.
It's Phillies Astros Game 3 tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
On Friday, November 4th, AEW is on the road to Full Gear as AEW Rampage returns to Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City for the last time in 2022. Hottest ticket in town. Experience what All Elite Wrestling is all about, live and in person. Oh my God! You won't want to miss MJF.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
Saraya.
The revolution.
John Moxley.
You better step up or get stepped on.
Brian Danielson. Claudio Castagnoli. Dr. Britt Baker. DMD. Eddie Kingston.
I'll fight all of you right now.
Orange Cassidy. The Acclaim.
Everyone love the Acclaim.
Swerve in Our Glory. Hook. Hangman. Adam Page.
Hangman's in the house.
Jade. FTR.
Top guys. Out.
Tony Storm. Wardlow. Darby Allin. Chris Jericho. And the Jericho Appreciation Society.
And that's entertainment.
And many more will be there live. Don't miss AEW Live at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Tickets are on sale now and start at $20 plus fees. Go to AEWTIX.com now. Card subject to change.
Where can you holiday shop for anything you want, any way you want? Lowe's, actually. From the top tools to the top tech, find deals from all the top brands. Like a Craftsman 20-volt 2-tool combo kit. Was $149, now only $99. Then save time with more convenient ways to shop. Check back daily for deals during Black Friday month and start saving now at Lowe's. Home to any possibility. Offer valid through 11/2 while supplies last.
At EasyCater, food for work is our thing. It's literally all we've done for 15 years. Whether you need to feed a meeting or the whole company, we're here to make sure the food is professionally delivered, on time, as ordered, and all within your budget. No wonder we get orders from 93% of Fortune 500 companies. Food for work is what we do, and no one knows it better. Order 24/7 from over 95,000 restaurants on EasyCater.com. EasyCater, food for work. It's our thing.
When cold symptoms keep you up, try Vicks NyQuil Severe for max strength nighttime relief. Just 1 dose of Vicks NyQuil Severe starts to relieve 9 of your worst cold and flu symptoms to help take you from 9 to none. Get some rest and feel better with Vicks NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, sore throat, stuffy nose, fever, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
This view was worth a hike.
Right? And it's a good way to stay on top of my health.
Yes, I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. Have you screened for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. It's more treatable when caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and it's used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you, or visit Cologuard.com.
I'm in.
Why wait to save? Dell Technologies Black Friday event arrives early with select deals on top tech to power business productivity. The savings start now with up to 48% off performance business PCs powered by 12th gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, including free shipping on everything. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL for Black Friday deals. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Football season is in full swing at FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Atlantic City. Bet, watch, and win all season long. Plus, enjoy your favorite games from all over the world with 10 betting kiosks, 5 betting windows, 13 big screen TVs, and plenty of comfortable seating. Just head over to FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's in Atlantic City to get in on all the action this season. FanDuel wants every bettor's experience to be enjoyable and fun. Visit FanDuel.com/playwell to learn more. Must be 21 or to play and present in New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Phillies baseball tonight, Game 3 and Game 4 of the World Series here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll get back to your thoughts and comments in just a bit. Of course, you can always text in at 609-403-0973 and DM the show to the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. For those who follow us on Twitter at 973 ESPN, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the poll question was put out by Mike Gill, and Mike Gill wanted to know, with the World Series Game 5 now being on Thursday, which game gets the main TV with the sound on? The idea is that people can watch multiple TVs, but you don't have the audio on both of them. Well, the poll breakdown has turned into a 80-20 split at this point, okay? There's only an hour left to vote, so if you want to jump on there at 973 ESPN on Twitter, but I've quote tweeted it already, and it's a very interesting question because I think that on its surface, the obvious answer is Phillies. The obvious answer is the Phillies are in the World Series, and this is a Thursday night football game with the Eagles. That's the obvious answer. But to take this a little further, and you guys know I like to go a little deeper, not be so superficial. My question is, if the Eagles were not playing the Texans, would this be a 80-20 split? And I'm noticing outside of Mike Gill earlier on the Sports Bash today on 97.3 ESPN, nobody wants to answer that question directly. Mike Gill was the only person who I asked this question on any level, anywhere, and gave me a straight up answer. Because I wonder if the Eagles were playing somebody not the Texans, if they were playing the Cowboys or they were playing the Giants on Thursday Night Football, would it be an 80-20 split? I tend to believe it wouldn't be. I genuinely believe that when you look at this situation on Thursday night, what gets forgotten is that this is not the first time this has happened. Now, the previous times this has happened, I don't know if it's as indelible in our memory as maybe you think it would be, because it happened in 2009. The Eagles played the Giants at 1 o'clock. The Phillies played the Yankees at 8 o'clock. In 2008, the Eagles played the Falcons at 1 o'clock. The Phillies played the Rays at 8:30. In 1993, the Eagles played the Giants at, again, 1 o'clock. The Phillies played the Blue Jays at 8:30. So you're noticing this is all Sunday scenarios. The only time that the Phillies and Eagles had an overlap was 1983. The Eagles-Cowboys game was 4 p.m., and the Orioles-Phillies game was 5 p.m. Now, the results of those series and those games is a little less important than it is the context of this conversation. I genuinely believe that if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, you are lucking out right now, because the majority of these Phillies games have not interfered with Eagles games. Majority of the Phillies playoff run has either been on days that the Eagles are not playing or during the Eagles bye week. So in some ways, you're fortunate again that you can make that decision and you can have an 80-20 split on the voting, because the Eagles are playing a 1-5-1 Texans team. This is not as easy of a decision if the Eagles are playing the Giants or the Cowboys, two teams that are right on their heels for the division and the conference standings. There's only one team that gets a bye week in the NFL playoffs. One team, nobody else. Everyone else has to play wild card weekend. So you have a situation where if the Eagles game was not a, shall we call it, a random NFL game. It's hard to call them random NFL games because there's only 17 of them. It's like a baseball or a basketball or hockey season that's like, 10 months long, right? Football is a week by week proposition for about 4 months, and that's a wrap for a lot of teams. So for the Eagles, them playing the Texans is a very convenient situation. All things are not equal in this analogy. So, of course, most people are going to have the sound on and have a closer eye on the Phillies in the World Series because, one, they're in the World Series, and two, because the Eagles are playing the Texans. Context is important with these conversations. I don't think that we dig deep enough to fully understand. Because over on the text board at 609-403-0973, Texas says, Phillies, of course I'm picking them because the Eagles game is just a regular season game. Phillies are in the World Series. And yes, on the surface, Texter, and I wish I'd give you credit. Did you put your name? Oh, he says it's still the Phillies. It's the World Series. We haven't gotten that for years from the Phillies. And I understand that. And I totally get that. And I know there's a part of Philadelphia fandom that has a special place in their heart for the Phillies, because baseball is arguably one of the hardest things to win in. Football teams make the postseason every year. Basketball teams every year. And Andrew, thank you for signing your name. I want to give you credit because you bring up a valid point. You say we don't know when the Phillies will be back. I think it's a very important part of the conversation. Basketball teams, almost everybody makes the postseason in basketball and hockey. Making the postseason in those sports is not critical, right? Whereas baseball, it's still less than 50% of the league, and football is less than 50% of the league is making the postseason. Hockey and basketball, if the Sixers are playing a playoff game the same night of the NFL draft, you're kind of indifferent because unless the Sixers are in the conference finals or the NBA finals, maybe some of you are not invested in them. So being in the World Series definitely has a major level of consequence. But I'm looking forward to Thursday night. I'm going to go out. I'm going to plant myself in a local establishment, and I'm going to watch the Phillies and I'm going to watch the Eagles. And I'm going to observe the crowd because I want to see how the crowd handles watching both. Look, for me, I get to ride the wave. I get to ride the wave of everybody else's emotion and see what happens. So I'm looking forward to that. For the next 2 nights, all of our focus will be on the Phillies. But Thursday night, we're talking about 2-2 series, 3-1 series. Phillies can clinch. Astros can clinch. Very interesting. Oh, a great text from Andrew. I appreciate you chiming in on the text board. Danny HC also chimed in and says, Josh, what day will the Phillies parade be so I can request off from work? Danny HC, I think it depends on how the series goes. If the Phillies win it in these 5 games, I'm going to make the assumption that the parade is Sunday. If the Phillies have to go to Houston and win the series, oh, man. I mean, that it's going to be tough because Sunday would have been easy. There's no Eagles game. There's no, regular work going on the weekend. Same type of work traffic in the city. So Sunday would have been easy. So if you want to go to the parade, Danny, so you're hoping they win in 5. But if they win in 6 or 7, I'm going to assume the parade is like Wednesday or Thursday. I have to double check when the Eagles parade was last year, but I'm pretty sure that was a midweek day. Hal from Wilmington chimes in and says, Bo Jackson was the reason why I became a Raiders fan when I was in elementary school. I still wear the 34 jersey among Eagles and Ravens fans. That's from Hal in Wilmington. Well, Hal, if you're a Bo Jackson fan, I highly recommend you read this, The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson by Jeff Pearlman, because it's amazing. Look, I'm a big endorser of Jeff Pearlman, just on a side note, folks, because the man does his research. Doing over 700 interviews is an insane amount of research. I've read Sweetness. I've read his book about both Laker books about the 80s later to the 90s to the 2000s. I read Football for a Buck. I'm reading this right now about the Bo Jackson book. There's never been a bad Jeff Pearlman book. And the amount of detail and information in that book is amazing. So Hal, I highly recommend you get the book. Because if you're a Bo Jackson fan, you're just going to be, your eyes wide opened by this book. It's absolutely just so much going on. Before I get out of here, one more quick thought about the NFL. I mentioned this earlier. Trade deadline. Wow, easy for me to say. Woo! What a day. Trade deadline came and went. It was like a flurry. And I almost felt like the Nets fired Steve Nash, or as they call it, amicably agreed to part. Whatever happened, they did it on Tuesday afternoon because they knew the NFL was the hot topic. I got to tell you guys, I think they did a good job. They buried the story a little bit because this whole situation in Brooklyn is a fiasco. It's built for, an soap opera or something on Bravo TV or MTV2 or something. Or, this is not built for the NBA. I know that some people have referred to the modern NBA as today's version of what the, WWE used to be. I tend to believe that in the world of sports, I think there's something to be said with the fact that sometimes we forget that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think there were a lot of good intentions between Durant and Kyrie to build a super team in Brooklyn and try to win on their own without the guys that they won championships with before. And it's blown up in their face for a variety of reasons. And, between Kyrie's on and off the court issues it's more, just, shall we call it, poor decision making with some of his statements and attitudes and actions. And then Durant being Durant, Ben Simmons is now thrown into that craziness. I just think that the Nets are a dumpster fire. I think if you're somebody who thought the Nets were going to win a championship this year, you better hope Udoka pushes all the right buttons. It looks like Ime Udoka is going to be their head coach, and if that's the case, soap opera just got a little extra spicy. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Phillies Game 3.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app?
YouTube only crowd. Shout out to all of you still watching at Josh Hennig on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I appreciate you checking this out. Before I get out of here, I did want to expound a little bit more on what we talked about with Jeff Pearlman about Bo Jackson. And if you were listening closely enough, and I wasn't planning on asking him this question, but he kind of directed me in this way. He said, look, I've written a lot of books about people from the South who were heavily disciplined, the idea of, don't spare the rod for your child, and all that stuff. And, I asked him, I said, do you think that discipline helped prepare them for who they became? And he said it was a part, but he said, Jeff Pearlman said explicitly, he said, look, I think that being hungry was an even bigger factor. That guys like Bo Jackson and Walter Payton, they grew up in such poverty. Even Brett Favre. A lot of these athletes were born out of bad situations, bad environments, and sports and being successful became a necessity. It wasn't just, I love the game of football. It was, I have to be good at football, or I have to be good at baseball, or I have to be good at whatever sport it is, because that's my ticket to college and that's my ticket to a better life. And I think that with today's athlete, the problem with some of these athletes is that they did not grow up in a world of such desperation. Even athletes like LeBron James and Allen Iverson, who did come from, very humble beginnings, when they got to high school, their lives got better. They didn't go to college and then their life got better per se. Even in the Bo Jackson book talks about that Bo Jackson wasn't making a ton of money in high school. There was a guy that was giving him like 10, 20 bucks to like mow his lawn and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't like he was getting, athletes today, you could literally make money by being an Instagram influencer or being a TikToker or being a YouTuber. You don't have to make money through the traditional modes of making money. So when I look at the situation with some of these athletes today, whether it is a Kevin Durant, a Kyrie Irving, a Zion Williamson, and even to some extent LeBron James, I just wonder, did the modern society soften them a little bit? Did they not have the desperation that could have made them maybe more balanced human beings? I think LeBron has become a billionaire because of his work ethic and because of his talent and because of his ambition. I don't think he became, rich and famous just because he was as desperate as someone like a Walter Payton or a Bo Jackson or a Shaquille O'Neal was. Don't forget, Kobe Bryant came from good money, and it took him a while to mature. And you could argue that if he came from maybe a lesser beginning, maybe Kobe wouldn't have been such a spoiled brat at the beginning of his career. I'm Josh Hennig. Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. That shoulder. 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And, of course, live here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends.
Coming up on baseball tonight, it is take two for Game 3. Rained out last night, which means